After learning that the rapture is arriving, a woman living in earthly desires transforms into a devout Christian. However, her extreme devotion blinds her judgment, leading her to commit an unforgivable sin. During the day, Sharon works a repetitive and monotonous occupation as a telephone operator. In the evening, she accompanies her lover, Vic, in exploring bars to find couples who are willing to be intimate with them. Upon locating their target, the pair heads to their table and introduces themselves. They encourage the couple to have fun with them, but Randy cautions that they might not be able to handle it. However, Sharon is unfazed by his warning and wishes to proceed with their proposition. Intrigued, Diana accepts and invites them to leave. Once they reach Vic's store, the group of couples begins to explore non-monogamous intimacy. The following day, Sharon overhears her colleagues conversing about their strange dreams. Wayne shares that he has heard the sound of a horn, and Conrad confirms that it's the B-flat tone. Since such an occurrence is new to them, Maggie reckons it's a premonition for the imminent arrival of the rapture. That day, Sharon finishes her intimacy with Randy and she orders him to tell her a story. Randy complies and reveals that he killed someone in exchange for money. Admittedly, he regrets committing the crime as it negatively brands him. However, he wonders that if killing isn't considered a sin, maybe he might not feel guilty about it at all. Afterward, Randy confesses that the year when he killed a man was his worst, and 1975 was his best. He asks Sharon what her best year is, but she is clueless for she feels that everything feels empty for her. One day, two evangelists visit Sharon's apartment and warn her that God's return is near. Therefore, they urge her to cease her earthly desires and accept Jesus Christ as her savior. Otherwise, she won't be saved. Sharon closes the door at them, but she ponders their words, which leads her to invite them inside. Again, the evangelists advocate that she build a connection with God, but Sharon remains skeptical about the truthfulness of their claims. Because of this, the man gives her a Bible, hoping it'll help her realize the importance of faith. The following day, Sharon, alongside Vic, meets another couple to be intimate with. This time, they're a married couple, which Vic finds exciting. In the middle of making love, Sharon is intrigued by Angie's pearl tattoo, which urges her to inquire about it. This spoils the mood and Vic reprimands her for being nosy. Regardless, Sharon finds her tattoo familiar, so Angie's husband encourages her to explain. According to Angie, her pearl tattoo appeared in her dream. The next day, Sharon approaches her colleagues and informs them she's dreamed of the pearl. They request that she elaborate on her dream, but Sharon just tells them she saw a big pearl by the river. Unfortunately, they deny the reliability of her claims, but she insists it's real. Wayne explains that it can't be faked as it's a message from God. Hence, he advises her to pray if she wishes to receive the vision of his return. Curious, Sharon asks why such an important event isn't on the news. Wayne clarifies that only non-believers won't get the dream. His response infuriates Sharon and further fuels her confusion. Now she opines that it's arrogant that a god from a country in the Mediterranean has to be worshipped by everyone. Upon mentioning that other religions prosper without Jesus, Wayne tells her they won't be saved. Back home, Sharon heads to her bedroom where she comes across Vic with another woman. He invites her to join them, but she leaves. At this point, Sharon begins to question her way of life and finds it further unfulfilling. That's why when Randy spends the night with her, she abruptly orders him to get up. Randy asks the reason for it, and Sharon tells him she has to change the sheets since they're unclean. As she's doing the chore, Sharon declares she's gonna start over for she needs a new direction in her life. She finally believes in God and wants her salvation. A dispute arises between the couple as their beliefs clash. For Randy, there's no God but only chaos, whereas Sharon believes he exists because people have a guilty conscience. She even warns him not to use his name in vain and cites it as part of the 10 Commandments. Confused, Randy wonders how a bath at midnight correlates with eternal salvation, and Sharon reveals she wants to be clean. After cleansing herself by bathing, Sharon returns to her bed and Randy follows suit. He continues to be skeptical about the existence of God, emphasizing that mortals have no power to change the disastrous world. He notes that Sharon is suffering in her monotonous life, so he volunteers to make her feel special by loving her. However, Sharon wishes for more for she's tired of feeling empty. Randy remains persistent in helping her, but Sharon recommends that God should help them both. He takes this as a cue to leave since he's still a non-believer. Later in bed, Sharon prays to God, pleading with him to guide her as she feels lost. The next day, Sharon allows a stranger named Tommy to hitch a ride with her. She brings him to a motel and lets him lounge in their bed. While he's distracted and telling her a story, Sharon grabs his bag to steal his gun. She orders him to leave, but Tommy threatens her with a knife. Though scared, Sharon doesn't back down and aims the gun at him. This leads Tommy to yield in frustration. Once alone, Sharon tries to end her life, but she can't bring herself to fire the gun. She simply hides it in the drawer, but she notices a Bible there. She diligently reads the book and allows herself to be enlightened. Finally, she dreams of the pearl, which causes her to awaken with a smile. Vic visits Sharon inside her apartment and asks where she's been. She reveals she's been with someone, which Vic misinterprets. Due to her changed personality, Vic thinks she fell in love and she doesn't deny it. Sharon clarifies that she met Jesus Christ and encourages Vic to meet him too. Instead of acknowledging this, Vic makes fun of Sharon's words and even teases her as a cult member. When Sharon expresses her seriousness about her faith, Vic becomes upset and tells her she needs to be deprogrammed. At work, the previous impersonal Sharon has become a cheerful telephone operator. While assisting her customers, Sharon encourages them to recognize the existence of God. Her behavior affects her performance, so her boss Henry summons her to his office. Henry reprimands Sharon for her consecutive delayed calls, but she comments that she is merely doing her job. However, Henry remarks that it appears she is doing two occupations. Offended, Sharon voices that God made her a telephone operator because it's her mission to spread his word. With a voice of warning, Sharon informs him that God is returning to judge the world. Therefore, it's her responsibility to spread this news among the people to prepare for his return. Intrigued, Henry asks her when she saw the light, and she answers that it was just recently. He becomes silent and Sharon senses his doubt with her revelation. In his defense, Henry has encountered people who pretended they dreamt of the pearl. He emphasizes that only those who are humble shall hear God's words. The next day, Henry brings Sharon to a Christian meeting so she can meet the boy who's deemed the prophet. The boy informs Henry that God is returning, and there are rumors of wars. He adds that those who live with a curse shall be held guilty. Immediately, Henry shares the prophecy with the participants. Sharon asks when it'll manifest, and the boy tells Henry that it'll happen in around 5 to 6 years. When the meeting is adjourned, Sharon visits Randy after not seeing each other for some time. Randy isn't enthusiastic about seeing her, especially since they didn't part ways on good terms. Sharon tries to introduce God to him, but Randy refuses, even deeming that she's using him as a way to numb her pain. Despite his hurtful words, Sharon insists God is real and Randy is simply in denial. Moreover, she opines that his denial stems from his fear of God's judgment. He dismisses it, but Sharon voices she doesn't want to lose him. From there, the pair reconcile their romantic relationship. 6 years later at church, Sharon, alongside her family, is a devout Christian. They listen to the boy's declaration that the rapture will indeed transpire in the current year. The following day, Sharon's daughter, Mary, wonders where heaven is located. Sharon tells her it's in the sky, but Mary is curious why they can't see it. Instead of answering, Sharon informs her that they'll see Jesus soon. One day, Randy has to fire his employee, Lewis, because he isn't doing his job well. Lewis becomes emotional, so Randy approaches him and recounts all the help they provided him in hopes he'll change. Still, Lewis finds them unhelpful as he doesn't favor the people he's encountered. Without a choice, Randy simply promises to pray for him, causing Lewis to have a meltdown. Since Lewis doesn't take the dismissal well, he returns to the company and proceeds to shoot the employees who come in his way. Randy rushes to check the situation after hearing the alarming gunshots. Suddenly, Lewis appears and unremorsefully shoots him. On the day of Randy's wake, Sharon's friend Paula is disturbed by his death. She expresses her envy toward Sharon's optimism, believing her husband's passing is God's plan. Now, Paula can't resist questioning her faith, explaining that maybe God was introduced to them just to make sense of things. Calmly, Sharon tells her God is real as indicated through the Bible. Sometime after, Sharon goes to town and sees a vision of Randy in the desert, inviting her to accompany him. Alarmed, Sharon seeks the boy's prophecy, and he reveals that the vision is from the book of Revelations. According to the book, a woman has fled to the desert where God has prepared a place for her. Sharon's confused about what it means, so the boy hypothesizes that God wants her for a special purpose. For this reason, Sharon returns home to pack her belongings for her stay in the desert. A frustrated Paula tries to prevent her from leaving. but Sharon's decision is final. Paula worries about Mary, so Sharon informs her that she'll bring her daughter to the desert too. Realizing Sharon is keen on fulfilling her calling, Paula simply extends her support by giving her supplies to take to the desert. Also, Paula's afraid for their safety, so she hands her a gun. Later in the desert, Mary wonders why they have to go there, and Sharon explains that they're going to wait for the elevator to ascend heaven. Days have passed, but Sharon and Mary remain stagnant in the desert. Suddenly, they hear a loud alarm, making them think it's God's call. The pair climbs the desert rock and ecstatically waits for God to take them. However, the alarm isn't from God, but from a climber's car, which disappoints them. Mary wishes to see Randy, and Sharon assures her they'll meet him in heaven. Because of this, Mary suggests they die together so they can quickly reach heaven and be with her father. Sharon, the ever-optimistic person, declares they'll give God another chance. Following this, Sheriff Foster approaches them because they've been overstaying at the particular side of the campsite. Sharon asks if they can stay in the other areas, and the sheriff allows them. Looking at Mary, Foster's concerned for her safety, but Sharon changes the subject by asking if he wants to be saved. When Foster confirms, Sharon encourages him to pray, but he refuses because he's a non-believer. That night, Sharon dreams of the pearl and the sinful lifestyle she had long abandoned. Only Mary's persistent calls awaken her. Her daughter alerts her of the hunger she is feeling. By the morning, they search the trash bins for food, but they fail to find any. Mary proceeds to confront Sharon about her promise that God will take them to heaven. Since it's been taking a while, she suggests that they hasten their ascendance through dying. Sharon declines and voices that they'll give God another chance. Once the night comes, Sheriff Foster visits Sharon's camp to give her a blanket. Sharon's grateful, but Foster's kindness is yet to cease as he hands her a candy bar for Mary. A brief silence ensues between them, and Foster breaks it by promising to revisit them. During their slumber, Mary becomes delirious due to starvation, so Sharon consoles her and swears they'll get food in town. Mary disapproves of it because she believes God will give them food in heaven. She begins to share her dream, emphasizing that she is arrived there. Curious, Sharon asks if she's also in her dream, and Mary confirms. Sadly, Mary is unsure if she's also in heaven. Later in the morning, Sharon and Mary go to a restaurant drive-thru to get their food. When the cashier gives their order, Sharon speeds away. He orders his colleague to call the police, but he refuses since Sharon has a daughter. On their way back to the desert, Sharon gives Mary a burger, but she doesn't have an appetite for it. Sharon consumes hers, but the guilt of stealing makes it unsatisfying. Due to their melancholic situation, Sharon decides to make their plan to ascend heaven a reality. With a heavy heart, Sharon shoots Mary and tries to end her own life. However, she falters as self-harm is unacceptable in heaven. In the evening, Sharon buries Mary in the desert and proceeds to leave the area. While she is driving, Sharon encounters a vision of a horse galloping, causing her to overspeed. Sheriff Foster tails on her until she stops on the side of the road. He approaches her and is surprised that Sharon is the violator. Still, he orders her to fetch her license and she complies. He notices that Sharon is distressed, so he gives her his jacket. Now he asks her about Mary's whereabouts, and she informs him that she's gone. Sharon admits that she killed her, which makes her realize that she abhors God. She detests the fact that people must love him despite the tribulations he bestows. Moreover, she's hurt that God broke his promise in the desert, resulting in Mary's demise. Though Foster feels terrible for her, he proceeds to arrest her as she has to face the consequences of her actions. Inside her cell, she reunites with Angie, who's now a preacher. She recounts the reason for her arrest. She returned inside the shopping mall to preach even if she was kicked out. Afterward, Angie tries to preach that God will forgive all of her sins as long as she trusts him. Sharon remains resentful of him, so she ignores her. Later that night, Mary, accompanied by two angels, visits Sharon's cell to warn her about God's return. Mary asks her if she loves him, but Sharon denies it. For her, God abandoned them and pushed her to kill Mary. The next morning, the sound of a trumpet blaring envelops the whole police station. Excitedly, Angie informs everyone that Gabriel is blowing his trumpet. She explains that there will be 6 calls, and during their duration, people must repent for their sins. Suddenly, the steel bars in the prison cells begin to crumble. After the signal ends, the police officers and the prisoners begin to leave. Angie tries to convince Sharon to repent, but she angrily dismisses her. Alone, Foster Foster approaches her to inquire about what'll happen next. Sharon asks if he's scared, but he's unsure, especially since he never had faith. Before they start their discussion, he invites her to leave. On the road, Sharon and Foster come across the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. They surround the pair and take them to purgatory. There, they locate Mary, who informs them that they're in the river that washes away all of one's sins. Foster supposes they're in heaven, but Mary corrects him. She points out that heaven is on the other side, and only those who love God can see it. With that, Mary asks if he loves God, and Foster confirms. As a result, Foster ascends to heaven. On the other hand, Mary convinces Sharon to love God since they're running out of time. Instead of complying, Sharon declares her love for Mary. She explains that she can't comprehend why she should thank him for giving her sufferings. Once more, Mary urges Sharon to profess her faith in God so she can go to heaven. Despite her insistence, Sharon refuses. When her time's up, Mary ascends to heaven, whereas Sharon remains in purgatory forever.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.